That evening, Johnny Masterson was ordered to the Vatican. There he was briefed on the whole affair, shown pictures of the two bodies which he examined closely, taking in the depth and width of the claw marks and the evidence of the missing hearts. He confirmed that the creature involved was most likely a lycanthrope. From there he was given the green light and booked on the first available flight to London in the UK. He sat down at Heathrow Airport at 6 a.m. the following morning, hired a car and headed down south towards Cornwall. 5 hours later, he was turning into the driveway of St. Peter's Church, leaving his bags in the car. He got out, then immediately stopped. It suddenly occurred to him that since entering the village, he had not seen a single person, nor had a single car driven past him. It was Saturday afternoon, and the village was dead, silent. Not even a bird tweeted in the surrounding trees. Nothing. And yet, there was something. A kind of heaviness in the air and oppression. Almost a sense of waiting. Johnny had long ago learned to trust his feelings, and something here felt very wrong. Drawing his gun from his jacket, Johnny flicked off the safety and headed for the church. He had taken no more than a few steps when he noticed the blood on the path. At first it was nothing more than a few drops, but as he drew closer to the church, it grew thicker, almost covering the entire path. Drag marks ran through it, heading towards the doors that stood open, over the stone steps and into the darkened church beyond. Johnny squatted down, never taking his eyes off the church doors, and dipped an experimental finger into the blood, feeling the texture, which was thick, almost jelly-like, and Johnny guessed the blood was old, as it was starting to congeal, probably spilled sometime last night while he was still being briefed in Rome. Standing, he wiped the blood off on his jeans-clad leg and cocked his weapon before slowly moving towards the door. It was the smell that hit him first, brought to him on a sudden gust of wind that rattled the tree branches all around him. It was the smell of death, of fly-bone meat crawling with maggots. Johnny covered his nose and mouth with his spare hand, breathing shallowly as he entered the church. For a moment he stood there, his hands falling limply to his sides, the smell forgotten as he observed the desecration within. Everywhere there was chaos. Pews were smashed and broken. Pages from prayer books and Bibles lay scattered all about. Some of the pages were smeared with a brown substance that could only be either mud or shit, but it was the altar that Johnny couldn't look away from. A man's body lay across it, face down. His bloody clothes torn to shreds. His back was also torn right down to the spine. It gleamed wetly, stark white in a sea of red, puckered flesh. Even worse than this, the man whom Johnny guessed correctly was Father Nicholas had been violated in the worst possible way. From the waist down he was completely naked, his legs splayed impossibly wide, and Johnny presumed they had been dislocated, even broken. His genitals were torn away, and a large brass crucifix rammed in their place. For a moment the whole room seemed to spin, then the smell hit him again with full force, driving him backwards, surrounding him like a miasma, slicking the back of his throat, making it hard to breathe. Retching, he staggered away, back into the blessed daylight. There he was noisily sick, breaking the ominous silence with his retchings and heaving. After he had purged himself, he walked around the desecrated church until he found the rectory. Like the church, the door was open, but inside was untouched, almost barrack neat. Johnny wasted no time and headed straight for the phone. He had his mobile, of course, but there was no signal here, not even a single bar. Likewise, when he checked the priest's phone, there was no dial tone. Nothing. Just a wall of silence. Cursing, he slammed the phone down and headed back outside, and for a moment he stood there, indecisive, before marching down towards the bottom of the hill. He had noticed a row of terraced houses on the drive up. He knocked on the door of the first house, noticing the car parked in the drive, but there was no answer. He tried to peer through the curtains, but they were tight shut. Heading next door, he rapped on the door, hammered on it, but there was no answer. He peered through the window into a small living room with an oversized television, but there was nothing. Nobody. Not even a random sullen neighbour asking what hell all the noise was about. At the next house, he didn't even bother to knock, just tried the handle, and when it didn't turn, he raised one booted foot and kicked it in, wincing as the noise defiled the silence. Inside, he found nothing, and that's how it went for the next few hours. In some houses, he found TVs and radios still playing. In another, he found a smoking iron still switched on, which he turned off. In another, a table set for an evening meal. A congealing chicken stew and stale bread sitting on the table. But as for the inhabitants of the village, there was no sign. By the time he had finished his fruitless searching, it was starting to get dark. For a moment he considered spending the night in the rectory before starting his search again tomorrow, but he dismissed the notion quickly. It was too close to the church and the horrors within. No. Instead, he grabbed his bag out of the car and headed more fully, deeper into the village. He hadn't gone far when he noticed a small hotel just off to his left. The door was open and the lights were on. Maybe someone was home, and if not, at least he would have a place to wait out the night. But after a quick look around, he deduced that this place was just as empty as everywhere else. Tomorrow he would enter the village and see if he could track down the beast that had killed poor Father Nicholas, and with God's help, maybe find some survivors of whatever had happened in this place. The next morning, he stepped out of his shower, intending to do just that. Quickly, he toweled himself dry, threw on yesterday's clothes, and armed himself before heading out into the street. He stood there for a moment, watching and listening. Once again, there was nothing but the same ominous silence. No people, no birdsong, nothing. So he set out walking, digged into his pocket for his mobile phone, and found the damn thing still had no signal. If he didn't find a way to report soon, the Vatican would send other hunters to find him, and that was the last thing Johnny wanted. There were only 5 hunters active at the moment, including himself, all working in different locations around the world. The last thing any of them needed was to be pulled off an important job just because Johnny Masterson couldn't find a working phone. Cursing, he stuffed the mobile back into his pocket and then came to an abrupt halt. There was a dead man standing in the middle of the road between the post office and the local bakery, as if guarding the entrance to the harbour beyond. Johnny unholstered the gun by his side and moved slowly closer. Right now, the creature was looking at the floor, its rotting body swaying in the wind that blew from the ocean beyond. It was impossible to tell what sex the creature had been. It was too far gone into decay for that. As Johnny drew closer, he noticed bits of seaweed hanging from between blackened ribs, and saw how the top of its balding skull was encrusted with barnacles. He could smell it now. The stench of decaying flesh, rotting seaweed, and long-dead oceans. Suddenly, the creature's head shot up and it let out a low groan as it staggered towards him, leaving bits of sloughing flesh behind as it came on. The thing's face was a complete horror. The nose had caved in, leaving two raw channels. The bottom jaw was dislocated and distended, a gaping hole filled with crooked, blackened teeth. "Oh, fuck this," Johnny said, raising his pistol and taking a step back. He had dealt with the undead many times before and knew, barring decapitation, a gunshot or extreme trauma to the head was the only way to put them down. Sighting along his arm, Johnny gently squeezed the trigger. The gun bucked in his hand and the creature's face exploded in a mass of black putrescence. It staggered, but did not go down. Instead, continuing its slow advance, arms reaching. Taking a deep breath, Johnny shot off another round, shearing off the top of the creature's head and dropping it in its tracks. He stood still for a moment, smoking gun by his side, eyes searching for any movement. But again, there was nothing. Only the sighing of the wind and the smell of the ocean. Flicking on his safety, he holstered his weapon and approached the creature, kneeling by its side, doing his best to ignore the stench. Never in all his years as a hunter had he seen anything like this. Oh, he had seen his fair share of the undead, or zombies if you like, but never anything like this. He wouldn't have believed anything so rotten and decomposed could even move, let alone attack somebody. In most cases of reanimation, it was only the new dead who arose, their empty flesh a vessel for a greater evil. But this thing had been dead for months, maybe even years. A dead fisherman, perhaps, or a victim of accidental drowning. Either way, it somehow managed to drag itself from a watery grave to try and attack him. But what was it doing here? And what evil had managed to enslave its poor and broken body? Was it somehow connected to the murder of Father Nicholas and the mystery of the missing villagers? Nothing made sense. He felt unnerved, out of his depth. This was not a clear-cut case. There was something else. Standing, he raised his face to the sky, took a few deep breaths, trying to get his whirling thoughts under control and find a little inner peace. He had a job to do. It wasn't going to get done standing here, second-guessing himself. Straightening, he pulled the shotgun from across his back and continued on past the deserted shops and onto the harbour front. The harbour wasn't one, but two, consisting of an inner and outer harbour. Fishing trawlers of all shapes and sizes bobbed in the murky waters, alongside smaller vessels used for crabbing and catching lobsters. There was even a small yacht or two, sails furled and tied down against the coming winter. All about were shops, restaurants, cafes and ice cream parlours, all tight closed and boarded over to protect them from the raging sea and winter storm. He was looking at an ice cream parlour with the unfortunate name of Ice Cream Seabream when the second attack came. One minute he was looking up at the swinging sign, and in the next his face was hitting the concrete with numbing force as something big and fast barreled into him from behind. For a second he just lay there helpless, his body a mass of pain, but after what seemed like an age he managed to stagger to his feet, spitting blood and bits of broken teeth. The shotgun he had been carrying had been knocked from his grasp but lay nearby. Scrambling with reaching fingers, he scooped it up and span round, trying to look everywhere at once. "Are you looking for me, little chicken?" a voice growled. Johnny turned as if in slow motion. He knew that voice. It was a voice he would never forget. The voice that still haunted his dreams, the creature that had killed his parents, the creature that he himself had killed so many years ago. It was crouched down on a nearby boat that bobbed and rocked in the growing wind, its malevolent eyes never leaving his face. "Oh, Johnny," it growled, creeping forward. "How you have grown." It was closer now, only an inch or two of water between them, and Johnny fancied he could smell its fetid breath. "What's the matter, Johnny?" the thing crooned. "Aren't you going to piss your pants for me again?" "No," Johnny replied, raising the shotgun to the creature's face. "No, I'm not." The creature continued to smile as Johnny pulled the trigger, emptying both barrels into its face at point-blank range, dissolving its head in an explosion of blood, teeth, and bone. For a moment it lay there, twitching, then lay still. Quickly Johnny reloaded his weapon, then leapt across the churning sea and onto the rocking boat, but the creature was gone. There was nothing. No blood, no body, nothing. He heard the laughter from behind him, the high, sweet laughter of a child, and spun round, almost falling over the little girl that seemingly had materialized out of nowhere. The girl could have been no older than 5, maybe 6. She was dressed in a simple white nightgown and streaked with dirt and blood, her hair a mass of black tangles, her face filthy. "I didn't give you permission to come aboard," she said, smiling sweetly. Johnny was just about to stutter out a reply when her hand shot out, grabbing him by the balls. She hoisted him into the air and over the side into the freezing cold water below. For a moment Johnny was falling, pain in his crotch a white hot fire until he hit the water, its cold embrace stealing his breath, almost stopping his heart. Spluttering and gasping, he broke the surface and swam for a nearby ladder that led out of the churning sea, back onto harbourside. Grasping the ladder, he hoisted himself out of the freezing cold water and just stopped. There was a pile of bodies on the quayside. Not a pile, but a hill. A mountain of lolling dead. All the missing people from the village. Men, women, and the children too. Slaughtered. Hundreds of them. Thousands. And sat atop this macabre throne, the same little girl that had so easily vanished only a moment ago. "Hello, Johnny. We're so glad you could make it." "Who are you? What are you, and why have you done this?"
"Me?"
she said, smiling sweetly. "Yes, you," Johnny said, his anger growing until it burned like a hot rock in the pits of his stomach. "You are behind all this. All the rest was just an illusion."
"Oh, how clever you are, Johnny. How innocent. And how little you know. How little they have told you."
Johnny's rage and frustration overcame him, and he slapped leather. Drawing his guns, he fired into the murderous thing above him, emptying both clips into this thing masquerading as a child. But the guns had no effect, passing through the creature as if through a haze of smoke.
Now, Johnny," it chuckled. "Violence begets violence."
Suddenly, the guns in his hands glowed white hot, and he dropped them with a cry, his hands blistering and weeping as he gritted his teeth against the pain.
"Those little toys of yours can't hurt me, Johnny," it said, toying with a dead woman's hair. "But you asked who I am and why I've done this. The answer to your first question is I'm a messenger, and as to why, my master wanted to attract your attention, Johnny. He has chosen you to deliver a message to your dog masters in Rome."
"Message?" Johnny frowned. "What message, and who in God's name is your master?" All of a sudden, she was there before him, floating, levitating, surrounded by a stinking haze of smoking sulfur and reeking flies. She grabbed him by the throat, spun him round, and thrust him face first into the pile of rotting bodies.
"Look upon me and despair,"
she hissed from between rotting teeth, her eyes glowing crimson orbs in her face.
"I am darkness, fear, and hate. My master is the morning star, the master of flies, the dark one, motherfucking Lucifer. Is that clear to you now, Johnny? Does that compute? Answer me,"
she screeched, shaking him back and forth like a terrier with a rat.
"Answer me, you Bible-thumping, Jesus-loving fuck. Answer me."
But Johnny could not. His vision was fading, his hearing going far away. Suddenly the choking hand around his throat was gone. He staggered away, holding his throat, gasping for breath. He heaved and fell to his knees, vomiting a mixture of bile and blood onto the floor, the stink of the dead all over him.
"Forgive me, Johnny,"
the creature tittered now, sitting back atop her grisly throne.
"Sometimes my temper gets the better of me. Do I have your attention now?"
she said as Johnny staggered back to his feet. "Fuck you," he spat at her. For a moment, she just sat there, a look of stunned surprise on her face, before bursting out into a deep, rumbling laughter.
"I like you, Johnny. You have balls. Perhaps I will tear them off and wear them as earrings after all. You don't need your balls to deliver a message now, do you?"
"What message?" Johnny gasped, wincing at the pain in his throat.
"Very well," she said, climbing to her feet. "No more games. From my master's lips to your ears, my master, Lucifer, commands me to tell your masters in Rome the first prophecy has been fulfilled. The end of days is upon them. Look for the star, wormwood in the sky, and prepare to drink of bitter waters. The pit shall be opened, and the hordes of hell shall run free upon your lands. We're coming, Johnny, she said, staring down towards him, and began sending bodies tumbling like broken dolls. Tell them, she said, beginning to change and grow her skin, turning black and peeling, her skin starting to smoke, and now she reared above him, black wings bursting from her back, a haze of intense heat beating against him, blistering his skin as he turned to flee. She is alive, Johnny, she shrieked after him. Your mother. They lied to you, Johnny. She is alive. She runs with the moon and eats the flesh of the innocent. She'll be waiting for you, Johnny. I will give her your regards. Tell them, Johnny. Tell them what I said. My master is coming. Coming for them. Coming for you, Johnny. Its voice reverberated around the village, shattering windows, causing blood to flow between his fingers where he clamped them desperately to his head as he ran into a future of pain and destruction where the minions of hell stalked the earth and hope, like redemption, was a long forgotten dream.